Hello, good morning, friends. Today we are going to discuss about the various research methods and the techniques that are always executed uh, to carry out a good research work. So, without wasting our time, let's get straight to the topic, which is research methods and materials in English literature. So, one thing that I want to make clear here is that research in social sciences, research in pure sciences, research in commerce, and then research in literature, and especially in English literature. Though these are all categorized as researches, but there is a slight difference in the researches because scientific research is different from what we say social science, and then research in literature is different from the other researches as well. Say for example, here in research we have in science we find a particular problem, and then we get a conclusion of that problem. We carry out research and the various tools are used uh, in order to get closer to the conclusion, and then a new discovery is made. But here in literature, new discovery is in the form of to find out the new dimensions and the various novel dimensions of a text, and that is how this research is different. And definitely, if the approaches are different, then the methods of the research will also be different. So, without wasting our time, let's be precise and be concise to the topic. Let us first try to elucidate the definition of research. Basically, research is if we just split up this word into two words, that is research. Re and search mean mean again, search mean to quest for, to find, and then to search for. Research mean to search again, to get yourself into a new quest to find something which is already existing there. Mean there is something which is always there, which is already there, and duty of a research or the obligation of a researcher is to research what has already been searched and to find out what new can be ascertained from that particular existing aura of knowledge that we have. So, research is an organized and systematic way of finding answers to the question. So, it is very simple and very common definition of research, that research is a very organized and systematic method. So, let me define the words and their usage here in this slide, which is organized. Research is is an organized process or method. It is not unorganized, because you have to organize it, you have to arrange it. There are various steps that are to be followed, that are to be adhered in order to carry out a research. It is not something where you can do randomly. For example, there is a child who is dictating you something, and then there is an old man who is playing with the toys. So, this is not possible here in research. It is an organized method and systematic, and there is also a sort of systematicity in the research. It may not be unsystematic, it may not be carried out in a hollow and randomized way. Like, it has systematicity, it has a systematic method, and it has a very pithy process which is to be followed. uh, uh, and it is very clear that research is carried out to find out the answers of the question that is raised in a research. Say for example, in English literature we carry out research, for example, on Shakespeare. we carry out research, say there may be various dimensions, there may be post-colonial dimension in some of the plays of Shakespeare like the Tempest and Antonian, like the Tempest, and there may be Oriental or there may be Oriental and Occidental concept here, like we have in Antonio and Cleopatra, we have the psychoanalysis and the Oedipus complex here in Hamlet, and then in Macbeth we can have psychoanalysis and the various other approaches. So the duty of a researcher is to frame the questions, and those questions are to be answered in a research. So the second point is research is systematic because there is a definite set of procedures and steps which you will follow. There are certain things in the research process which are always done in order to get the most accurate result. So I have already defined it, that in order to carry out research, a researcher is supposed to bear some fundamental rules of the research in his mind. The basic rules are systematicity and organized way of carrying research. And the third point is research is organized in that there is a structure or method, and this point is also similar. It actually this point has been written in bullet points in order to make you ascertain, and so that you may be able to memorize things easily. That is why these points have been kept in bullet points. Finding answers is the end of all research, whether it is answer to the hypothesis or even a simple question. See, as I told you, that it is finding answers of the question. Basically, you say, for example, we carry out a research right now here. India is facing pandemic, and we take samples of 50 people, and we take random samples, and then we carry out a research that what are the possible reasons of the spread of this disease, and then the question is that what are the reasons of the spreading, or what are the reasons of the upsurge of the second wave of coronavirus in India, and then we'll try to answer these questions through the strenuous process, through the rigorous process of research. Hypothesis, hypo mean raw and thesis mean idea. Hypothesis mean a raw or rough idea. Say for example, how we say that this is hypothesis, and say for example, an idea is the final form of final and the final shape of your finding. So in research, a hypothesis is made because then you have to support your hypothesis, and to form your hypothesis into a full-fledged idea. So the idea is hypothesis, and then it is transformed into a fully vindicated idea. Questions are central to the research, and all these points have been written here in order to make you understand, because in net examination you people get questions like this. So the crux of the definition of research is basically research is a process, is a systematic and organized process in which a researcher through his rigorous efforts find out the conclusion and solution of a problem that is raised in the research, and answers the question that are raised in that are raised. This is research. It is to search something which is already existing, and and it is in addition to the already existing area already existing area of knowledge or area of research. It is an enhancement of knowledge, it is a contribution to the society. Say for example, how it is contribution to the society, because once you people have their um, say for example, somebody is working on coronavirus, he is carrying out research on this coronavirus and the factors and its causes and its spreads and its how can we curb it, how can we grapple, and then various remedies. And once the findings will be published, at the time it will be a great and huge contribution towards the development of the society and for the humanity. So now we'll discuss the steps that are followed to carry out a good research. Identification of a research problem. So basically problem, let me define you in a very precise and simple manner, that identifying a problem, say for example we consult a doctor, we just reveal him that sir, I'm suffering from fever and I have body ache, and then I have breathing problem, and then I have congestion, and then I have cold problem as well. And doctor will focus more on the symptoms and less on the appearance of the symptom, because what causes that fever and cold and that congestion to a patient is the concern of the doctor. Similarly, identifying a research problem is the major step in a research, because once when you will identify your problem, then you will put yourself into quest to find out the solution and to find out the answers of those problems. So this is the first part. Say for example, we see poetry of John Keats, and somebody wants to carry out research on John Keats, and he initiates his research on John Keats. And now how will he begin his research? For example, what is the problem that he wants to find out, what is the problem that he wants to address here in this research. For example, biographical elements in the poetry, or the biographical imprints in the poetry of John Keats, and this is the problem, and the researcher will try to find out the answers of this problem, and then a conclusion of this problem. So the identification of the problem is the first step of the research. And you may be asked a question in UGC net, say for example, pick the odd one out, or what is the right sequence of research. You may be asked with the jumble options, and you have to arrange those options. And identification of the problem is the first step in the process of research. You should remember this. And the second is literature review. Let me define it and elucidate it. What is literature review? Basically, literature review is to review, to find out the already research or the existing research done on the topic or related to the topic. Say for example, if somebody is doing so somebody is interested in doing research on a topic like we can say post colonialism in the novels of Chinua Achebe, or the colonial legacy in the novels of Chinua Achebe. And the literature review here will be a researcher will because nowadays it is easy, will Google and consult the already research is done on this writer, or on the various themes and the dimensions of the works of this writer. And then he'll frame it into a very tabulate them in a well mannered way. And then this will be the literature review, because if you won't carry out a literature review, you won't be able to carry out research. How? Let me answer this question. Because literature review always enables you to get a clear idea the topic that you have opted to work on, whether the topic has been worked upon or is a novel topic, and the various dimensions that have been dealt by various researchers, and how they have dealt them, and how your research will be different from their research. This is categorized into the category of literature review. So the second step is, first step is identification of a problem, and the second step is literature review. And the third problem, or the third step in the process of research, is specifying purpose of research. Because everything has got a particular purpose, every activity is purposeful, because nothing can be carried out in vacuum, or nothing is absurd. So the basic and the fundamental aim is to specify the purpose of the research, that what is the what will be the contribution of your research towards the society, towards the individual, what addition you are going to make in a particular study. So the third is specifying the purpose of your research. And the fourth is determining specific research questions. So this is also a very significant and most important component of a research process. Here a researcher is to focus on uh, those very questions that he wants to answer in his research. Say for example, how as I mentioned earlier, if somebody is carrying out research on John Keats, and the research questions will be how poetry of John Keats is biographical in nature, what is role of the personal life and biography in his poetry, how his life and ailment left indelible imprints on his poetry, so on and so forth. So these are the questions that are to be answered, and that are to be framed in a research. Because if there is no question, there won't be any research. If there is no problem, there won't be any research. And if there won't be literature review, you won't be able to carry out research, because you have no idea that the topic you have decided to work on, whether it has been worked upon by somebody else or not, or the area and the significance of that area. So let's discuss the fifth step of the research, that is choice of methodology for data collection. So this is also a very important component in the research. Here a researcher is to define that the various methods for data collection. Say for example, data collection, if we are carrying out a research in social sciences, and there the data collection method will be survey, case study, survey method and case study, and the random sampling, and then sampling, and then stratified sampling, and so on and so forth. Say for example, we want to find out causes of illiteracy, causes of illiteracy, or the benefits of midday meal in government school. Then we'll firstly we'll decide, and we'll decide to go to a particular area where mm, a school is run by the government, where midday meal is served on daily basis. And then we think of we conduct a survey, say for example, picking 20 students, 2 students each from all classes, and then we'll give them a questionnaire, and those questionnaire are to be answered by those students, and then we'll get a conclusion out of that. But here in English literature or the literature, we don't have these survey methods and all, because here we are mainly concerned with the thematic concerns of the novel, because this is not social science or the science, because here mostly our research is not fundamental research. Basically it is applied research, or we can say comparative research, because here we are concerned with the thematic dimensions of a novel. thematic dimensions of a drama, thematic dimensions of poetry, and the various dimensions and the shades of a particular work of art. So here methodology, we have like we have psychoanalysis, we have a sociological approach, we have a psychological approach, we have biographical approach, we have what we say this reader response approach, so on and so forth. So these are the various methods that are used, and one of these methods are the any of the method is applied in order to justify. We also call this theory, uh, or how you apply the theory. Say for example, while doing research on John Keats, biographical approach will be used if you are doing that, and if biographical approach will be used, because here we are going to deal and discuss the various shades of his biography that are reflected in his poetry. Data collection. Data collection, as I have mentioned it already, data collection is basically how you collect your data. What are the sources of collection of your information? Data is basically information, set of information. How you collect it? Basically, data collection is a very strenuous process. Here in English literature, we collect data through various methods, and there are two methods, that is direct and indirect, primary or secondary source. We can also recognize them or designate them primary or secondary source. Primary sources are the basic texts. Say for example, we are doing research, beg your pardon, we are doing research on a particular writer like Harold Pinter. As the primary or the basic sources are the texts that we have taken up as a challenge, okay, and the secondary sources are news, magazines, interviews, then published papers, and then help books, and then um, these these notes and all, internets and interviews and YouTube and podcasts and all. These are secondary sources. So you just remember two things. There are two sources for the collection of data in English literature. One is primary and the other is secondary. Primary sources are texts like Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, Wasteland, then so on and so forth. And the secondary sources are the various help books and the interpretations and the YouTube and interviews and podcasts, and then personal interviews, and all these are the secondary sources. Now, eighth step in research is analyzing and interpreting the data. So the data that we have collected through these primary sources and secondary sources is always there, and now we try to interpret the data and its relevance to our topic. So the data that we collected and the information that we assimilated from the various sources, now it will be tested, and now this will be the litmus test of the information we have gathered. Reporting and evaluating the research. Now the penultimate step in research is to report and to evaluate the research, whether whatever you have done, whether it is to what extent your hypothesis is justifiable, and now you evaluate the data and the information, and you discuss various dimensions of the data, and you try to answer the questions raised in the research, and this is the second last step. And the last step is communicating the research finding and possible recommendations. And the 10th and the last step is, because now you have a framed research in your hand, and you have gathered the data, and now you have evaluated it, and now you finally find and you communicate your research finding in the form of your dissertation or thesis, and you also write down the possible recommendation and the further extension that is possible in on that topic or while carrying out research, and this is how the entire research is carried out. So in order to carry out an effective, significant and comprehensive research, one has to bear in his mind these 10 steps, and these 10 steps. So in the NET examination, questions are asked from the research, because now they are focused more on research and teaching aptitude and less on the constitution, from where they used to ask 3 to 4 questions, and from the previous 2 to 3 sessions I think that they are quite oblivious of the syllabus and they just focus on research. They should be rather and teaching aptitude. So definitely to in today's class we discussed about what is research and what are the steps of research. Hope you enjoy this lecture of mine, because this is my first lecture. If any sort of recommendation that you want to offer to me in order to amplify the quality of the video, or in order to bring certain improvement in my teaching method, or in any form you want any sort of improvement, you can please suggest in the comment box. Please keep on sharing um, this information to the others, and subscribe my YouTube channel, so that you may be able to get the notification of the coming videos. And if God willing, I'll try to upload 2 to 3 videos on daily basis, because I started with the research, because this is a brief topic, and also very relevant topic, because in universities most of you people are going to face university entrance examination, and there you get question like this. And afterwards I'll start discussing English literature, and then American literature, and then literary theory, and then criticism, and then Canadian literature, and South Asian literature, and then African literature. Each and every point of literature will be discussed here, and every individual work will be discussed here, and you will get such sort of slides on the screen. So thank you so much for watching. um, Please subscribe my YouTube channel. Thank you so much. God bless you.